Good evening. Welcome to Athens City Council. Tonight is Monday, May 3rd, 2010. This evening, City Council is meeting in regular session. Tonight, we have a quorum with all members of council present. Disposition of minutes. Do I have a motion to accept the minutes from the regular sessions held April 5th and April 19th, 2010?
Second.
Motion.
I'll move to accept.
I'll second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Minutes have been accepted. I am in receipt of no communications. Is there any communications anyone would like to share? Member Butler.
Thank you, sir. Briefly, I believe the mayor is aware of this as well, but briefly, I'll just share that there were some concerns about the flooding on the west side of town and some of the challenges that that posed over the weekend. And I believe that the mayor was also in was a recipient of an email regarding this as well.
On Courier.
Correct, on Courier.
It's not an unusual place to experience flooding in Athens, is it, Mayor? Any other communications? Would you like to talk about it on reports of other elected officials?
Yeah, I'll bring it up and keep it short. We did have some transient flooding. Of course, that's not the River Tyne, which is Hocking. I think it's actually peaked already, crested about 17 and a half feet. It's on its way down right now. In terms of flooding, we had some water come over Coach Richland, I believe. I saw some on Bayard while I was cruising around, and you were talking about Courier. Also, there was a press release earlier today. The bike path, actually, we have a culvert by the Stimson area that has actually been damaged by the water. We patched it up, but the water just supposedly has wiped it out, so they're going to have to fix it. I'll let you know at the next committee probably what it's going to cost. Originally it was going to be cheaper, but I guess whatever patch they did not survive the water. Basically, if you have any questions, just call the Service Garage or the Public Works, 593-7636. But it's pretty much out. It's underwater right now, and once the water goes down, it'll still be out because the patch failed. Other things I'd like to mention would be Athens Recycling Day, the 15th. This is at County Road 13 for their recycling center. They do that for each county. Also, I don't know if you're aware that I think you probably received a notice about us pooling our natural hazardous mitigation plan together into one countywide structure. I believe we need a resolution on that of some kind. Also, that the county planner has a survey, I think it's SurveyMonkey, to find out if there's any input or what people consider a natural hazard for the county. So if you go and contact Bob Eichenberg, he can probably get you to that link. It was in the paper last week, I believe. I forget what day it was, but it's one of the SURF OU EDU XX181. So that will get you there to the survey. And last thing is the Planning Commission is probably going to start working on the sign ordinance again, sign ordinances and update on that. It's not on the agenda. It'll probably start as a communication this Wednesday, just so you know. And that's all I really have.
Questions or comments for the mayor? City Auditor Kathy Hecht.
I was just going to mention that I talked to John Paskey since council passed the contractor registration ordinance, and he has already been working on drawing up a letter that they will be sending to everyone they can find in the phone book and that they know of to let them know what's going on. That's supposed to start June 1st, and that we will be getting something to the mayor for his press conference and to the newspapers to let people know what's going on with that. That's it.
Comments for the auditor. City Treasurer Mary Ann McClure.
Thank you. You should have found in your box a report for first quarter. The first page is the interest income, which the total for first quarter is $58,717.25. We had two CDs mature in March, so it's a little higher than 25% for that reason. And attached are the bank reconciliations for the first 3 months, which I can ask for approval next time.
Comments or questions for the treasurer? Law Director Patrick Lang. No. On to ordinances for third reading. Ordinance 4310 is an ordinance granting a revocable license to the owner of 22 Ohio Avenue to rebuild a fence in the city right-of-way. Member Fall.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that we accept 4310.
Second.
It's an ordinance granting a revocable license. We've talked about this numerous times in my committee. And it's for 10 years. These come up. People then renew them after they first get the license, and it's a pretty straightforward process.
Motion and a second to accept ordinance or to adopt ordinance 4310. Further discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 4410 is an ordinance authorizing the mayor to enter into an annexation agreement with the Board of Trustees of Athens Township for the property located on Old Peach Ridge. Again, Member Fall.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to move to adopt 4410.
Second.
This is actually a new process, that the first time that the city has used this process to annex. It's a streamlined process that is put forward between, it's more of a, I guess, a contractual process than the normal process of annexation. There was one outstanding question that Member Bain had with impacts of if they decided to split the property. Do you want to reiterate that, or has that been addressed?
I'm not sure. I think that we had a relatively vague statement of what was exactly happening with this, and perhaps in future efforts we might want to have it more specific that it would be a single-family use. I asked, when I was complaining to Andy about the lack of the problems on Madison, I got to know one of the new police officers because I was cleaning out the catch basin. It was pretty bad on Madison, and that's probably why that area is still flooded. I actually asked the police officer to check and see if there was back to if there was a hole in the reservoir, because it was so, I've never seen it so bad. And I've cleaned that catch basin many times. But anyway, back to the point. And so in the process of this, I guess I was thinking that I wrote a note to Andy and suggested that maybe more systematic catch basin cleaning might be an ideal. And I also asked him about this and said, what happens if? And one of the questions I had is if they run the sewer line the usual way, it'll go down into the sewer that is a problem, the one that goes down Cable Lane. I mean, it has been a problem, and I guess if we line it, it won't be such a big problem. But, 2, 3, there's some flat issues up there, and I guess I would have liked, and under the old circumstances, it would have been more specific. And, one house probably won't make a big difference. If you have more than 1, 3, 4, 5, it could make a difference. So maybe in the future, since time is of the essence and we're under a constraint from the president, not Obama bias, but maybe we could ask for that in the future, that it would be a single lot, because of especially in this case, because there's some flat issues and some problems with that sewer that we have not rectified yet. Anyway, so I think we're okay. I mean, I assume we are. So, thank you. I guess we're okay.
Other comments? Mayor Weil.
It sounds like I believe you emailed and talked to Andy already about this.
I just talked to him today because I had a complaint.
Okay.
Yeah.
Again, the conversation I had with him, we had staff meeting today. We moved our staff meeting over to Mondays to see how that works. He had looked at it on the Old Peach Ridge side. I asked him if they tried doing lot splits on the Strauss Run side. Again, cognizant of the fact that there's an easement, which would make it very difficult to do that. He didn't think that was a problem either, but he didn't look at it when he was doing this examination. In any case, he says the property that we're talking about is higher than Old Peach Ridge Road, so therefore his concern, of course, of grinder pumps and et cetera, should not be an issue there. The capacity is there, he says. And concerning water runoff, I know that we had people using overtime all Sunday cleaning out catch basins.
I'll send you mine, though.
So it was an ongoing problem with the amount of water that was coming through.
It was amazing. Truly amazing.
But yeah, okay.
4 inches, right? 4 inches.
4 inches, I think. In terms of crafting some kind of annexation, I really didn't come into this at all in terms of making limitations on lot sizes and lots. Any lot split would be a minor subdivision or a lot split, and we could look at it in terms of that. We have another review of that, of course, depending on infrastructure as well.
And the road frontage issue with that and how exactly that would be managed. So I have confidence it'll be fine. I just was concerned that streamline is okay as long as we know we're in line for no problems in the future.
Okay.
Thank you.
Other comments? All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 4410?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 4510 is an ordinance approving an amendment to the solid waste management plan of the Athens Hocking Solid Waste District for implementation of a generation fee and declaring an emergency. Member Bain.
Mr. President, move adoption of 4510.
Second.
4510 is a response to a request from the Planning Committee of the Athens Hocking Solid Waste District. We're under the law, House Bill 592, where there was a public hearing on a fee increase, a generation fee increase, and it was passed tightly by the Planning Committee of that august body. And the generation fee means that all of the solid waste produced in this district, which is not a large district, will be subject to a $3 charge per ton. And last time I tried very hard to make everyone understand it will not cost us hundreds of thousands of dollars because most of us produce about a ton, and some of us even recycle a good bit of that ton per year. So it's going to have an impact, but not as huge an impact as it sounds like, $3 a ton. And it'll be countywide, so that means if we would decide to take our tonnage to Jackson County, the money would come back to our county, our Athens Hocking Solid Waste District. The generation fee is slightly different from the other fee that's in place, which is a surcharge on garbage, $1 for each internal ton of garbage. So it's up. But EPA charges $5 a ton for each garbage amount, for each garbage ton deposited in the landfill. So that's how we're paying EPA to operate these days. So there's a good bit of surcharge on our fees, and we're voting to ask for one more because we need to expand the recycling, and this is one way to do it.
Other comments? All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 4510?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 4610 is an ordinance closing a portion of Court Street on Friday, June 18th and Friday, August 20th for a cruise-in. Member Butler.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move to adopt ordinance 4610.
Second.
Thank you. Briefly, this is an annual event that takes place in the summer of Athens, and the dates are, as noted, June 18th and August 20th. There is a third additional cruise-in, which I believe is held down the street on Union, which does not need or require this particular passing. But for these two, this is relevant. So that's it in a nutshell. Thank you.
Further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 4810 is an ordinance providing for the issuance of $1 million of notes by the City of Athens, Ohio, in anticipation of the issuance of bonds for the purpose of paying part of the cost of acquiring and constructing improvements to East State Street and declaring an emergency. Member Sands.
Mr. President, I move adoption of ordinance 4810. This ordinance is pretty self-explanatory from the language in the title. We're looking at acquiring $1 million in bonds for not acquiring East State Street. We've already constructed the improvements on East State Street several years ago, and this is an ongoing process of paying for those construction costs. The original cost was a little more than $4 million. We have paid it down at this point to $1 million. So we've received money from the TIF fund and other funds that go toward this. So that's what this is all about.
Other comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 4810 is adopted. Ordinance 4910 is an ordinance providing for the issuance of $155,000 of water system revenue notes, 13th 2010 renewal by the City of Athens, Ohio, for the purpose of paying litigation costs and renewing notes previously issued for the purpose and declaring an emergency. Again, Member Sands.
Mr. President, again, I move adoption of ordinance 4910.
Second.
Again, this ordinance is fairly explained in the title. We are looking at issuing $155,000 of water system revenue notes. This would be renewing this amount of this payment for the 13th time. Each time it goes down a little bit, and this was paying litigation costs with regards to an issue that the U.S. EPA has with some possible problems on the West State Street field.
Other comments? All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 4910?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 5010 is an ordinance authorizing street paving and repairs. Member Ninesley.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move for adoption of 5010.
Second?
This is as described, authorizing the street paving and repairs that will take place beginning soon, this spring, and it will be for repaving of some streets which have been previously described in our committee meeting, streets around the city that are in need of repair.
Other comments? Member Butler.
Thank you, Member Nicely. I'm curious, is it possible for us, and I'm not sure if the website will list this or not, but do we list the streets that will be paved?
We do list the streets, and I believe Assistant Service Safety Director Ron Lucas was in the midst of finalizing that street listing, so we do make it public as soon as it's available.
Yeah, we can put it on the website.
Thank you. I had received some questions and curiosity about that and thought that it would be helpful for listing that on the
Yes,
website.
and in fact, I can give a brief listing here of Westfield, Briarwood, Mulberry, Kent, Lamar, South May, Dalton, portions of Jacobs, Pleasant View, the Athens PD lot, East State Park, the rec funds, that'll be for Nature Works, Jeff Hill. Oh, no, that's only with our local funds only, and that's not final approval on those. That's the tentative list.
Thank you.
Other comments? All those in favor of adoption of ordinance 5010?
Aye.
Opposed? The ordinance is adopted. Ordinance 5110 is an ordinance adopting a bicycle and pedestrian plan for the city of Athens. Again, Member Nisley.
Yes, Mr. President, I move adoption of 5110. Second. This is for adopting our bicycle and pedestrian plan that was highlighted by City Planner Paul Logue a few weeks ago in our committee meeting. And what this sets up is short-term, mid-term, and long-term plans for improving our city's streets and our signage so that we can encourage more people to walk, bicycle, use the mass transit system. It doesn't necessarily set aside any funds at this point, but it gives us the plan to work with.
Further comments? Mayor Weil.
It's basically going to give us guidance of where we want to do improvements along the way in terms of bikes and pedestrian. It'll dovetail with our Safe Routes to School program that we've got a series of grants coming through. But also, as I say, it just has us the ability to look and say, where do we want to put the next line of sidewalks and bike lanes, et cetera.
Very good. Member Fall.
I'd like to point out that this was also recommended in the comprehensive plan, many of these things. And it does help the city of Athens garner grants in the future if you have a plan that's been adopted and put forth, then the getting grants is that much easier. So I wholeheartedly agree.
Further comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ordinance 5110 has been adopted. Now on to ordinances for first reading. Ordinance 5210 is an ordinance amending the Athens City Code Title 41, Site Plan Review. Member Fall.
Thank you, Mr. President. This has been talked about numerous times in committee, and it puts forth several changes, mostly putting in things that were seen by the Service Safety Director, the Planner, and the Public Works Director as needing to be included, and some definitional changes and putting in some of the requirements, deleting some requirements too that were deemed to be not useful.
Other comments? Ordinance 5310 is an ordinance granting a revocable license to the owner of 55 Elmwood Place to replace an existing fence on the city right-of-way. Member Fall.
Thank you. Another revocable license for a right-of-way. This one is to replace a fence that's been there. Sometimes people, a long time ago, put in fences that they didn't realize were in the city right-of-way. This is to rectify that, and it's also going around a pool, so it's needed for safety. All the paperwork has been completed and is on file with the city.
Other comments? Ordinance 5410 is an ordinance closing a portion of Court, Washington, and State Street from 7 a.m. on Saturday, July 17th to 1 a.m. on Sunday, July 18th for a family music festival, Boogie on the Bricks, and Ohio Brew Week. I can never get that out. Suspending the enforcement of Athens City Code Title 13, Section 130410, unnecessary noise in the downtown area, and Title 7, Section 70526B1, City Garage Metered Parking Rates and Regulations. Member Butler.
Thank you, Mr. President. This particular ordinance was discussed in a committee meeting last week, and there was a fairly lengthy detail regarding the changes pertaining to the street closing, and I believe that the committee working on that was in close discussion with the mayor's office to make sure that we had a succinct street closing, because this event seems to be expanding and becoming more popular, and is also receiving attention at a national level with people coming into town and celebrating. And again, I think what's interesting or worth noting is the notion that this is a family event during the Boogie on the Bricks aspect. Worth acknowledging as well, too, was the suspension of the unnecessary noise and the parking regulations so that the city garage would be accessible. So, anything else, Mayor, that I need to address on that or acknowledge?
Everything.
Got it all covered.
What are we up to, about 6 years on this now?
I think so.
Been around and growing.
Yeah.
One of those successful events that continues. Very good.
Thank you.
Ordinance 5510, an ordinance amending Ordinance 0410, authorizing the mayor to extend the current contract with Lakefront Lines, Inc., and declaring an emergency. Member Nisley.
Thank you, Mr. President. As described in the title of it, what this new ordinance does is gives us, the city, a longer time frame that we need to discuss the logistics of a city's interurban bus system. So you'll notice on the language of it that in Section 1 that it extends the contract with Lakefront for an additional 4 months to July 31st, 2010.
Other comments? Announcements and other business. Member Kuhn.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would like to invite folks who are interested in speaking about an ordinance that would require carbon monoxide detectors in rental properties to the Safety Committee meeting that will be held on May 10th.
Other comments? Very good. Any other announcements? Any committee meetings anyone would like to schedule for next time?
Safety.
Maybe utilities.
Maybe utilities?
Depends on the meeting we have on Wednesday.
Member Butler?
Well, I was just going to abuse the pulpit real quick and wish my sister a happy birthday.
I have to remind you again that that is not allowed to be done. But if you were going to make the announcement, what would it be again?
A happy birthday to my baby sister who's living out west. Thanks.
Unless she watches this being streamed. Okay.
Thank you.
Opportunity for citizens to speak on legislative items and city services that we did not cover on tonight's agenda. Is there anyone wishing to speak before council tonight? Seeing none? Yes, sir.
Have you discussed the noise ordinance yet?
No, I believe that's going back to committee for discussion there. We are not discussing that tonight. Okay? Let's see. One quick announcement from me, and that is tomorrow is Election Day. Make sure you go vote. And having addressed all items on our agenda, we stand adjourned.
Okay.